So that leaves us with what the team is now, and this is what's really interesting because obviously I think they did make some good moves. I'm a bigger fan of some of their moves, I think, than I've seen written, and maybe that's a bad thing. But I don't mind Oliver Ekman-Larsson at the price they got him for. I don't mind Chris Tanev at the price they got him for, and I think you've got more defensiveness, more toughness back there, and with Oliver Ekman-Larsson, you have a puck-moving defenseman beyond Morgan Rielly. Thank God.
Yes.
Thank God. Yes. And Liljegren, too. He's there.
Here's what matters and is just not being talked about enough. They don't score in the playoffs. And yes, it's September. The playoffs aren't until April. I get it. Mm-hmm. Up front, they lost 35 goals.
Well, that's where I was going to go.
Oh, well, there you go.
That's where I'm headed. And the left side, specifically. Looking a little thin.
They're losing 21 from Bertuzzi and potentially another 14 from Robertson.
Yeah, he's going to be back.
Where? Where?
He's going to play on the wing. Now, that brings us to...
Some of those will be made up by Bobby McMann being a little healthier and hopefully maintaining the goal-scoring prowess that he showed in the winter last year. And plus, Matthew Nyes is going to take another step and get better just because he's young and getting better each year.
Could those two combine to fill that gap?
Yeah, I think
that's what
so.
They
Nyes
literally have to because... and Matthews has to repeat the greatest goal-scoring performance of the Cap era.
I was literally about to bring that up. Plus, you got to make up for Matthews dropping back because what he did last year was impossible.
The answer, if he misses a month or something and also just doesn't score 69 frigging goals again, it could be, oh, no, they actually have to make up 50, 60.
No, I don't think that's it.
It's possible.
That's not it because they don't have... Go look at their goals against totals last year. Their goals for and their differential's shitty. And it's because Samsonov was like, I can't play goal.
And
the first three months of the year, I can't play goal. And then Woll came in and he was good. And then he got hurt. And then Samsonov was like, I'm great. It's what happened in the playoffs happened over 8 months in the regular season. It just happened over 7 games. Sammy can't play. Woll's in. Woll's hurt. Sammy can play. And then but unfortunately in Game 7, even though he only let in 2 goals, it wasn't enough because the Leafs couldn't score.
It was such a good example of not ignore your gut, trust your gut. Sammy looked great for 4 months, and he looked terrible the last 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
We should have known. But I argued at the time. Listen, logically, there's no argument Woll should be in net. And then you know what? Some of that lands on Woll. Because Woll was the opposite. He went from being relatively undependable to you put him in net and you can't beat him.
And then he got hurt, and then he came back and he wasn't very good.
Well, no, I'm talking about in the playoffs.
In the playoffs, yeah.
No, unbeatable, hurt, came back, wasn't very good for several months. Was undependable. They put him in net for a playoff game. You cannot get a puck past this human being.
Yep. And
then he got hurt.
I would say that the upgrades they've made on defense, and they are upgrades, make no mistake, they're better players than were there last year. There is no more TJ Brody. It's very likely that if Benoit and McCabe are split up, it's because Oliver Ekman-Larsson is playing with McCabe. And then Benoit, who had a great year last year, can go back to playing probably minutes more in line with what he should be playing anyway.
More power play options.
Yeah, more power play options, all those things. And also new power play coach and new head coach. So the power play doesn't have to be anemic. I think if you solve part of the problem of the goals that you lost by allowing less. By having Anthony Stolarz, who had, I believe, of goalies that played over 25 games, the best save percentage in the league last year.
He was very, very good.
And Joseph Woll, who, assuming he's healthy, has been very good as a Leaf. And then you have, the best defensive defenseman by advanced metrics in the league, Chris Tanev.
Over a period of time, yeah.
So that part for me, I'm like, those are, when Dubas talked about this, and I think it's an organizational ethos, it's not just Kyle, when they talked about, hey, we're going to put all this money in these 4 players, we're going to have to find value elsewhere. I think they did that. I think Stolarz at, was it $2 million? How did 2 or 2.5?
2.5, yeah.
That's great. That's great. It's fantastic. By the way, the guy's 6'9". He's huge.
To me, it just comes down to win a goddamn playoff.
Well, yes, exactly. But we're talking about how. Let's not.
No, I know, but
that's the race to the bottom argument. It's we can't go there all year. We got to talk about how they're going to take steps to do that. Matthew Nyes, who had Matthew Nyes. Sure. Let me give you this.
Sure.
Matthew Nyes and Bobby McMahon were two names that Jesse brought up. And I think they're great names to bring up. Bobby surprised everybody because he was on waivers to start the year. Matthew Nyes, I think over the 80-game thing was good, but it was sort of a ho-hum year. There was a lot of nights where he kind of wasn't there.
I think he got better each quarter.
Sure.
Ish.
15 goals. Still had 15 goals.
Good end of the season and good playoff.
And he's a monster in the playoffs. So I feel like with Matthew Nyes, you've got a good opportunity there to take a step forward. Maybe it's not a huge step. Maybe it's 22 goals.
That's 7. 7's a lot.
7's a lot of goals. And then with Bobby McMahon, what did he have, 11 or 12?
14 or 15.
So could Bobby McMahon get to 18? And then could you stop 10 or 15 more because your defense and goaltending is a little more sorted out?
I have zero worries about their goal differential. Like I've seen some pessimistic projections like, oh yeah, like they're going to be a wild card team. They might miss the playoffs. Guys, you are letting
the summer's
another first round exit has gotten to your head. The regular season is so far from the problem. They, out of the last, like since the rookie year in 2017, they've had a grand total of 1 regular season where making the playoffs was even in question.
Yep.
And they still made it.
Yep.
On a technicality on account of the friggin' pandemic and everything.
Well, but so was the team they played. They were in there on a technicality.
Exactly. Yes.
And I don't think they technically count making the playoffs, right?
They count
because they lost the qualifying round.
Yeah, they made the qualifying round, but they didn't make the playoffs.
If you lose the qualifying round, I think what that means is you didn't qualify.
The Pittsburgh Penguins skew that stat because they say Crosby's postseason streak lasts through that, even though they lost in the qualifying round as well.
Dude, both of the worst seeds made it.
Yeah.
The friggin' Blackhawks and Habs were awful. They were both awful, and they both won. Oh,
but yeah, I don't think the Leafs will struggle to make the playoffs, but I could definitely see them in like the first wild card spot. They're in a very tough division.
Atlantic teams are better.
They're in a very tough division, and I think wins are going to be taken away from them amongst the bottom teams that you could feast on last season.
So the question I would have on that is, first off, they didn't perform that great against the bottom teams, which is concerning, right?
They never do.
They were never good against Ottawa.
Yeah.
I don't think they were great against Buffalo. I don't know what the season splits are anymore. I don't care. But it's never great. Like they always, those teams always seem to bring it for the Leafs. I think a lot of this hinges on how good Boston and Tampa are. Because if Boston and Tampa if Boston is Boston and Tampa have a resurgence over last year and Jake Gensel is like a breath of fresh air in that lineup, and Jesse may not be that far off, right? Like could be a dominant team.
One of Detroit, Ottawa, Montreal is going to figure out one of these years.
So you have the Panthers as the free space then?
I think that I don't know if they're going for I don't think they care about winning the division.
No.
But
also like fatigue is a big issue.
But they lost some good players. But I still Montour's gone, and I think that's a major one. And they lost Steven Lorentz. I mean, to the Leafs, which it's tough.
Take away from Florida, add him to the Leafs.
Who was the guy that always had his shirt off? His name escapes me. He went to Calgary.
Ryan Lomberg.
Lomberg, Long Beauty.
Beauty. The Lamborghini.
We're not talking about Ryan Lomberg didn't play every game. We're not talking about major stars here. I think that team, man, Florida feels like a repeat to me. They're that good. They're
really good, but they do have some considerations.
Yeah.
I think fatigue's going to be somewhat of an issue. Well, it's hard to win the cup and then it might be easier to win back-to-back
where they're not in the top 3 of the Atlantic, because that's sort of what we're talking about.
I want to know the last team to win the cup and then the President's Trophy.
Oh, that's a good question.
Right?
Yeah. Not for me to look up, but
I think it's harder to do because no one cares about the President's Trophy.
Yeah, I really don't think it's relevant to a hockey team in terms of we gotta be successful and win the President's Trophy, and that'll lead to the cup. That's not. I don't think any NHL player thinks like that.
Yep.
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so either.
But I can check it for you. If you really want.
I have higher hopes than I have higher belief in this team. I don't think they're going to be a wild card team. I think they will be in the top 3 in the division, likely 3rd, because that's usually where they're comfortable. That's their median average.
Adam, I just figured out how we find out the answer.
How?
The last team to win the Stanley Cup and then the President's Trophy was the Dallas Stars. Okay, now someone's going to correct us. That's all you do. You get it wrong on purpose.
You should. Oh, that's a great idea.
It's the last team, Dallas, in
2000. 99, 2000.
That's what I always say.
I like that. There you go.